And what if the blessing comes, but not to you? How many times have you prayed for an answer that did not come while the answer arrived for someone close to you? How many times did you ask for an open door and watched that door open for a friend, for a sibling, for someone who seemed to be ahead of you? It creates a strange feeling, as if the blessing passed right by you, as if it skipped you in the line of life. You keep trusting, but your heart begins to grow tired in silence, wondering what is missing, where you went wrong, why it has not arrived yet. And that is where faith continues, but joy slowly becomes fragile. God sees this conflict that no one applauds, this waiting that hurts without making noise. There are stories in the Bible that show exactly this. People who had love, had care, had promise, and yet still carried a difficult-to-explain emptiness. Because sometimes the problem is not the lack of blessing, but the pain of watching the blessing arrive for others while yours has not yet come. And when comparison enters, the soul begins to measure itself by other people's timing, not by God's care. It is in this place where you seem to have everything and at the same time feel like you have nothing, that this story begins to make sense. Rachel appears in Genesis as the beloved wife but barren, while Leah, her sister, bears children one after another. And this begins to wound the heart in silence. The Bible shows that the pain of waiting starts to mix with comparison, until sadness turns into rivalry within the family itself. Even being loved by Jacob, Rachel cannot rest, because her eyes stay fixed on what her sister has and she does not. This is how lack begins to speak louder than love, and desire becomes the measure of worth. And it is at this point that joy begins to be stolen, not by the absence of blessing, but by constant comparison. Because the pain of waiting begins to change when you start to compare, when comparison steals joy. In the story of Leah and Rachel, the pain does not stay only in silence, it turns into competition inside the home. One gives birth to children, the other feels invisible, and the heart begins to measure value by what the other has. You start to see yourself by what is missing, not by what you have already received. Comparison slips in quietly and changes the way you see yourself. Suddenly, nothing seems enough, not even what once brought you joy. Today, this rivalry does not happen only between sisters, it happens inside you. You look at other people's lives and feel like you are always behind, always lacking, always waiting. Someone else's blessing becomes a reminder of your delay, and someone else's victory becomes a mirror of your pain. And the more you compare, the less you are able to celebrate, because your heart becomes trapped in the feeling that it is never enough. And it is in this inner climate that other wounds begin to grow, asking for attention in the next step of the story. When pain turns into pressure, in Genesis 31, Rachel looks at Jacob and says, "Give me children, or I will die." The pain that was hers becomes pressure on the one beside her. You can feel the weight of that sentence, because when a wound is not treated, it looks for someone to blame. Instead of crying, it accuses. Instead of opening up, it demands. And what was suffering turns into conflict inside the relationship. This also happens when you expect someone to fix an emptiness that only God can touch. Frustration turns into impatience, sadness turns into pressure, and the person who loves you ends up taking the hit for something they did not even cause. That is how pain changes places but does not disappear, it only spreads. And without realizing it, you begin to hurt the very ones who wanted to protect you. And it is at this point that the heart begins to harden, preparing the ground for the next level of crisis. When you try to control what only God can solve. In Genesis 33:8, Rachel gives her servant to Jacob in an attempt to have children through her. It is not faith, it is desperation disguised as a solution. You can see that she does not wait, she rushes, she does not trust, she forces. Pain turns into haste, and haste turns into shortcuts. And shortcuts give the feeling of movement, but they do not bring peace to the heart. This also happens when you decide too quickly because you are afraid of waiting. You force conversations, relationships, choices, paths, just so you do not have to deal with the feeling of being stuck. It looks like courage, but many times it is just anxiety trying to control the future. Shortcuts relieve the distress for a moment, but they do not heal the wound underneath. And when the wound stays open, the heart begins to grow tired, and that tiredness will take the story to another level. When desire turns into obsession. In Genesis 30:14-16, Rachel agrees to trade a night with Jacob for mandrakes, a plant people said could help her get pregnant. Desire becomes currency, hope becomes negotiation, and everything begins to revolve around a single outcome. You can feel how need crosses the line and turns into fixation. When something takes up all the space in the heart, everything else loses value. And without realizing it, you begin to measure your entire life by a single absence. This also happens when you place your hope in people, methods, opportunities, anything that seems like a quick solution. The heart tightens, faith gets pushed aside, and anxiety starts to rule more than trust. When something becomes everything in your life, nothing else is enough. Not the small victories, not the other areas that are still standing. And it is in this state of emotional exhaustion that the heart begins to question even the goodness of God, preparing the ground for the next reality shock, when God remembers you at the right time. In Genesis 30:22-24, after so much rivalry, attempts, and frustration, the text says something simple and powerful. God remembered Rachel. It was not because of a trade, not because of a shortcut, not because of human persistence. It was in God's right time. And then she becomes pregnant and has Joseph, the son who changes her story and the story of the entire family. The silence was not neglect, it was process. What looked like delay was in fact preparation. This also speaks directly to your own story when you cry over answers that do not come when you want them to. When it feels like your prayers fell into emptiness and your efforts led nowhere. But heaven does not work at the pace of anxiety, it works at the pace of purpose. God's silence is not abandonment, it is preparation, even when it hurts, even when it is exhausting. And it is exactly after this answer that a new stage is born, but that stage will also bring its own challenges. When fear returns, even after victory. In Genesis 35:16-19, Rachel becomes pregnant again, but this time the story does not end in celebration. Along the way, she goes into labor and dies while giving birth to Benjamin. You can feel the contrast. After the promise is fulfilled, an unexpected pain arrives. The blessing did not cancel the fragility of life, nor did it shield the heart from loss. Victory comes, but fear shows up too, almost at the same time, almost mixed together. This speaks to you when joy comes with tension, as if the heart is already expecting the next blow. You achieve something, but you cannot rest because your mind is already calculating what could go wrong. Life does not turn into a fairy tale just because God answered a prayer. Even when God blesses, there are still pains, but not without meaning, not without hidden purpose. And it is exactly at this point that the heart begins to learn something even deeper about trust. And the most dangerous thing is when the blessing comes. And even then, the heart does not rest. When victory does not silence the competition in the heart. After Joseph is born, Rachel does not stop. She goes back to desiring, goes back to asking, goes back to wanting more. The comparison with her sister never truly disappears, it only changes shape, because inside she continues competing for value, place, and recognition. In Genesis 35, God answers again, and she becomes pregnant with Benjamin, as if the heart were saying, "Now yes, now I have finally arrived." But this race was not only against Leah, it was against her own feeling of never being enough. The competition that seemed external was, in fact, always internal. And then comes the difficult labor, the intense pain, and Rachel dies while giving birth to Benjamin, exactly after receiving what she had long asked for. The Bible does not romanticize this moment. It shows that not every answer comes without cost. Not every victory comes without wounds. Rachel's death is not punishment, but part of human fragility even after blessing. You feel the weight of this when you realize that more achievements do not always mean more peace. Even when God answers, the heart can still be tired, pressured, at war with itself. And it is at this point that the story makes it clear that the problem was never only the lack, it was the silent fight for acceptance. Rachel had love, but she needed inner healing. This story is not distant, it is happening right now inside you if you are honest. Every time you insist on something as if it were proof of God's love, you repeat the same race that Rachel ran. You call it faith, but many times it is pressure disguised as prayer. Meanwhile, the heart grows hard, restless, always waiting for the next answer. And gratitude gets swallowed by the feeling that it is never enough. Rachel was loved, she was chosen, she was seen, but she kept fighting to feel accepted. That breaks a dangerous illusion. Human love does not heal deep wounds, only God heals. You can receive affection, praise, support, and still feel empty inside. When the wound is internal, no external victory fixes it. And the more you look outside, the more you prove that you have not yet found rest within. So the question needs to be direct with no detours. What are you demanding from God because you do not want to face what He wants to heal in you? What emptiness are you trying to fill with results, promises, people, spiritual status, or recognition? When the heart does not feel secure in God, it becomes a tireless collector. And that pressure does not produce faith. It produces anxiety, comparison, and emotional exhaustion. The turning point does not happen when God gives you more, it happens when you let God be enough. When acceptance comes from Him, competition loses its meaning, haste decreases, and the soul begins to breathe. Love stops being a desperate pursuit and becomes a gift you are able to receive. And it is at this point that life truly changes, not because everything gets solved, but because the heart finally finds a place of rest. Before we close, take a moment of silence right where you are. God, you know the struggles no one sees, the comparisons that exhaust us, and the waiting that hurts. If there is anything in the heart that still needs healing, touch it with your peace and with your truth. Teach us to rest in your timing and to trust even when the answers do not come the way we expect. May the heart find rest in you. Amen. If this message spoke to you, write in the comments, "God takes care of me." Sometimes saying that out loud or writing it already changes our day. And if you enjoy reflecting on Bible stories that touch real life, stay here. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep following these moments of faith and reflection. Here we talk about the Word, but we also talk about the heart.